Welcome to the first episode of Wine Terroir. Thank you for joining me. My name is Robert Vernick. I wanted to start this series off with some celebratory bubbles. I wanted to choose something that was fun and easygoing and not super pretentious. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about Pet Nat, which stands for Petillant Naturel. Petillant is the French term for slightly sparkling, and natural is referring to the natural process and minimal intervention in making the wine. I like to think of them as hipster farmer bubbles that are very trendy at wine bars, but still mostly made by small artisanal producers. Pet Nat is a modern riff on the oldest production method for making sparkling wine, called the ancestral method. The ancestral method was invented several hundred years before the Champagne method in the Limoux wine region of southern France. There are several regions that make ancestral method wines, like Limoux, Gaillac, and Beaujolais, but the term Pet Nat has originated from the Loire Valley and has spread around the world with natural winemakers. Pet Nat is made by taking a base wine that has started a spontaneous fermentation between the sugar from the grapes and the ambient yeast that were on the grape skins. The wine is bottled unfiltered before the fermentation has completed, leaving some remaining sugar and yeast in the bottle. These are then sealed with a crown cap like you'd find on a beer bottle. The fermentation process continues in the bottle, but now that the wine is capped, the CO2 that is given off when the fermentation process restarts is trapped and becomes bubbles in the wine. Many pet nats are then labeled and released, unfiltered with dead yeast cells still inside the bottle, which can result in a cloudy appearance or yeast deposits in the bottom of the bottle, while other producers do a basic disgorgement to stabilize the wine and make it a little bit more presentable. So pro tip, when you're actually opening these, I recommend you let them sit standing upright in a refrigerator for a few hours so that the yeast deposits settle to the bottom of the bottle. So what's the main difference between Pet Nat and ancestral method wines? Well, ancestral method designated wine regions usually limit which grape varieties can be used, while Pet Nats are not really regulated by regional appellation controls, so they can use any combination of grape varieties. It really makes it a wine of whimsy and experimentation for the winemaker. I will note that in the AOC Montluy in the Loire Valley, in 2007 they created a distinction called Petillant Original. I don't believe that the term natural naturel is allowed to be labeled on French bottles directly. So they use original sparkling, Petillant Original, as the designation, and that designation states that wines cannot add any sugar or yeast throughout the entire fermentation process, and that they must be harvested by hand. They have to have a minimum potential alcohol of 12.5%, and that they have to do whole cluster pressing. And finally, that they need to stay on their lees for 9 months before being released. There's only about 4 or 5 producers who are producing Petillant Originals wines, and they're only in that one specific area of Montluy. Most people who want to make a Pet Nat simply will label theirs as a table wine or a generic wine of the area. Additionally, many ancestral method wines are disgorged to allow yeast deposits to fall out of the wine and then capped with a cork in a wire cage, while Pet Nats use crown capsules that are as their closure. And lastly, and this is a minor point, ancestral method wines usually rest and settle for several weeks to months before being bottled at low temperatures to stabilize and settle out solids in the wine. And Pet Nats are normally bottled as soon as the winemaker deems the initial fermentation has gone far enough based on their desired amount of bubbles or sweetness. It's really up to the winemaker, and it's really a reflection of them. And there's literally no rules. They can do it as they see fit. The end result is that you get a fun and honest wine. And these wines can be dry to medium dry and tend to be lower in alcohol. They often show newer regions, and include a wide range of grapes varietals that are not commonly made into sparkling wine. These wines are not meant for long-term aging, and be warned that these wines can sometimes be on the funky side, as the quality control of the process is a lot harder than other sparkling methods because they're going straight into the bottle. Production methods are often done by hand in relatively small quantities for any given producer. So sometimes they're also hard to find. Let's taste a few examples of Pet Nat. All right, so the two wines we're going to taste today are both from the Loire Valley, which is the origination of the term Pet Nat. The first one is Le Cave Saint Rebiffe from France Salmon, and this is a Pet Nat that obviously a rosé. You can tell by the color. From 2015, although it is technically a non-vintage. And it is made out of Cotte, Gamay, and Grelot. And Cotte is also the Loire term for Malbec. I'm assuming they're in that order, although when I've looked online, it seems like other years maybe there's a little bit more Gamay. And Grelot is an interesting grape. It's a largely disregarded grape and usually just used in the making of rosé wine. Rarely is it made into a red wine. It is relatively low alcohol and fairly high acid. So France Salmon is known, is based in the AOC Montlouis in Noir Valley. Oh, hey now. And interesting, the current cup has a little plastic piece on the inside. He's based in the AOC Montlouis. He is an organic producer. I believe he makes this wine every year. He definitely goes for mineral and typically dry. His mineral plus Chenin is from Montlouis is amazing. Really great value for the money. But let's give this a try while it's bubbling like a little fireworks. And I typically do not like the traditional champagne glasses. I really like the smell of the wine that I'm drinking, so I kind of use a standard white wine or red wine glass. So color, kind of hard with all the foam going on there, but it is a salmony, pinkish salmony color. I would say it's relatively pale. Nose, intensity of the nose, medium. It's not the craziest aromatic wine. Definitely getting there's a touch of funk on the nose. That may blow off in a second. A lot of natural low sulfur wines will have that, and it usually goes away pretty quickly. Yeah, some nice little floral notes. Also subtle red fruit like strawberry, almost like underripe raspberry. Getting almost like a saltiness on the wine. For like stony, I don't know, like wet cement. A little bit of like white flowers, acacia. Let's give this a taste. I haven't had this in a while. The bubbles are really faint. I mean, I get it like get it on the aftertaste a little bit. You can see them going in the bottle, but they're pretty subtle. So, dryness level. This is on the verge of off dry. There's a lot of fruit sweetness. Like in order to get the 12.5% potential alcohol, the fruit has to be fairly ripe. Yeah, I think I'd call this off dry. High acid, very good acid. Start to feel it in your teeth. The bubbles, again, I think that's the point. I mean, it really varies a lot depending on which producer you get in terms of how pervasive the bubbles are. I mean, they're going in the glass, but they're definitely, there's an effervescence when you first get in your palate and when you finish, but really, it's not like you would find in a lot of other sparkling wines. The intensity of the palate's a little bit, I would say it's like a medium plus. I'm not loving the palate. There's definitely the naturalness, the kind of funk, the yeasty notes are a little stronger than I would like on the palate, especially on the aftertaste. Yeah, I'm getting like a blood orange, orange tangerine, little orange peel, raspberry, strawberry, kind of really nice, really great summer notes. I get a touch of bitterness, which I don't mind. I kind of like, but then it finishes with this kind of like yeasty funk that maybe be better with food, but it seems a little out of balance. I've sat on this bottle for a little bit, and I mean, definitely there are yeast cells in it, but I let it stand for several hours. That you can see them at the bottom of the bottle. It's not a bad effort. It's not not one of my favorites. I know that this producer is very, very well regarded. It's definitely it has a good balance of fruit, mineral, and acid. So on the palate, it's really pleasant in terms of the texture you get from a slight bubbles, good fruit profile. It's really the finish that's killing me. I don't mind the bitterness, that kind of like Campari blood orange bitterness. I actually like that in wines. It's that funky yeasty note on the finish that lingers. If it was just there and kind of faded away quickly, it wouldn't bother me. Yeah, I mean, maybe that'll go away in a little bit, or maybe I've sat in this bottle too long. Yeah, I'd probably rate this an 82 point. I mean, something I'm not gonna seek out readily. I mean, I'd probably check, not the same vintage. I may be checking out another vintage to see if the yeast profile is a little bit more in check. I think the balance of the sugar and the fruit is really good. Yeah, I mean, definitely worth exploring. It's just not my cup of tea. I think people who are, I know a lot of people who don't like to drink, who get headaches from wine, especially like champagnes and stuff like that. Like drinking things like this will be great for them because they're very low sulfur, and it may not bother them as much. But this wine is probably not the best that I've had. So I'll keep it at 82. Drinkable, but not a stellar example. Moving on then, we are going to look at Bubbly with an exclamation point. On the back label it does say "You are so bubbly!" Exclamation point, which is a vin de France, so a wine of France, and it is made by a small negotiant called Nana Vins Etier, by Natalie Gaubicker. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. I did look her up. She was, I believe, married or partnered with Christian Chaussard, who is one of the leaders of the kind of like natural wine movement in the Loire Valley, and they started that negotiant together to basically source grapes for things. And Domaine de la Brousseau is also his main domain that he started. He was tragically died in a tractor accident in 2012, but she's continued on making the wines. And so Bubbly, exclamation point, I'm just going to call it that, is basically a Cinsault-based Pet Nat. Hey now. It's also a rosé, because Cinsault is a red grape. And They make a lot of really interesting wines out of the Loire Valley. Pinot Noir and a bunch of other things, but I've been wanting to try this for a while. Mousse on that baby. Give myself a healthy pour. All right. So color. This is definitely even paler. This is a very pale pink color, not as orange inflected, but I mean almost. I mean I could read through this easily. The nose on this wine is a lot more pronounced. I would say medium plus intensity on the nose. I mean, getting like a nice like Bing cherry, fresh strawberries, little pomegranate, almost like candied cherries, candied strawberries. I mean, it's showing some sweetness of the fruit, almost a little Jolly Rancher-esque. A little something herbal in there as well. Can't quite place it. Still getting a lot of pomegranate, like pomegranate juice. Almost a grainy as well, like seeds, like sunflower seeds. Not a ton of mineral or floral things going on, just like pure ripe fruit. Smells delicious. Bubble's a little bit more persistent than the last one. Yeah, the bubble's a little bit more consistent. I would say smaller, but on the last one they were much more in the attack and on the finish. And here, they're kind of consistent on the palate, giving a nice texture. The alcohol in this, I believe, is 12%. Let's see, it says it somewhere. Yep, 12%. And the last one was 12.5. I don't drink a ton of Cinsault by itself. This is a really nice rosé. It's like perfect barbecue wine. I mean, it definitely drinks really well. It's got, be great on a hot day. Good, tart, ripe, and tart and sweet fruit. So I'm getting like there's sour cherry, Bing cherry, raspberries, pomegranates, fresh strawberries, maybe even a touch of cranberry on the palate. I think the palate's even a little bit more expressive. Yeah, I'd still say medium plus. I'm getting almost, the sweetness level, probably an off dry as well, but it just, there's a lot more body on this wine. Good solid medium body wine. I think the last one was probably a medium minus body. Alcohol doesn't bother me at all. Medium alcohol, medium minus alcohol. The acid is not as high on this wine. Yeah, I'm just trying to feel it. Yeah, medium plus. I'd say medium. Let's go medium. Medium acid. Again, this definitely it has a richer, fuller body, and I'm definitely in comparing the two. But for a sparkling wine, it's definitely ripe, lush, round fruit. This is great. Just like let's just go outside in the sun, have a picnic, and drink this. I am liking this a lot. Good finish. Still all the fruit I talked about. Not really the kind of like mineral stuff that I got on the other wine, but I'm getting a little bit like kind of like rose rose lilac kind of finish on the palate, and again, super sweet fruit. Not sweet in the palate per se. I mean, there's a touch of sweetness, but in terms of just ripe fruit, it was a really good effort. I'm definitely going to be seeking them out. This is a pain to look up on Wine Searcher. And this wine retails for about $23, where the last wine was about $25. They are both really interesting wines. They're very different. You know, one's a little bit more. They're both biodynamic producers, they're both natural producers, but for flavor profile, for things that resonate with me, I'm definitely liking Bubbly a lot better. I think it's hitting all the notes I'm looking for in a great summer wine to enjoy from the Loire Valley. And I think, although labeled as Vin de France and non-vintage, you know, these definitely change from year to year. And this is a really clean and well done wine. I would think this is again, it's not super complex, but I'd be 87, 88 points. Definitely something I have no problem later on finding some people to help finish this bottle with me, and you know, seek it out. So yeah, that's the episode. I hope you liked it. You know, if you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you have any comments, I look forward to discussing with you in the comment section below on the YouTube videos. But yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Cheers.